Baldur's Gate 3 is just built different.
I'm not built like other men, and I'm not subject to petty insecurity. You're a beast. I feel sorry for you.
While we're waiting for the highly anticipated patch number 7 for our favorite game, I thought that this will be the perfect chance for me to give my take on why Baldur's Gate 3 is not just a big hit, but one of the biggest. I mean, just look at these numbers. Since the official release back in the 3rd of August 2023, the game continues to stay on the top 10 with more than 110k peak player count. But that's not what's insane about this data. Most of the games that you see in this top 10 are live service games with outliers like the new DLC of a really popular game with multiplayer PvP elements, which is Elden Ring, and the alleged money laundering game where you click on a banana. Allegedly, it's filled with bots and people who exploit Steam mechanics on the purchase of digital goods in order to inflate the banana prices even further to justify ridiculous prices, which in turn are used by shady individuals to move money around that are most likely shell companies. Maybe I went too far down the banana rabbit hole there. Okay, back to Baldur's Gate 3. Who would have thought an indie RPG game developer headed by this guy would be able to take a well-known tabletop IP like the Baldur's Gate 3 series and turn it into a juggernaut that it is?
Behold, the secret sauce of Dungeons and Dragons!
Provided that we already had a taste on what a Baldur's Gate 3 game looks like in previous iterations. To be honest, I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3 1 and 2 based on some conversations and discussions out there. There are still people who says that Baldur's Gate 3 is not the spiritual successor of the Baldur's Gate 3 series, provided that there's comparisons between 1 and 2. But I think that those people are just purists and just want the same formula Baldur's Gate.
Nobody cares.
Surprisingly, majority of the fans from both sides actually agree that this is a worthy successor and has brought this legendary IP into the next generation.
And the game of the year is Baldur's Gate 3.
And the BAFTA goes to Baldur's Gate 3.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Baldur's Gate 3! All I do is win, 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 no matter what.
Oh, chills. Literal chills.
Which brings me to my first point. Baldur's Gate 3 bridges the gap to what we call old school gaming to the modern audience. Tell me if you ever experienced this. You just arrive from school or work and it's gonna be Saturday tomorrow or a weekend. You take your shoes off, grab a snack from the fridge, head straight to your room, throw your backpack in the corner, fire up the old PC, PS1 or Xbox. Your mom orders pizza while you spend hours and hours immersed in a fantasy world where you create your own story. That's what gaming is all about back in the day, which is a slow burn. Not many games give that feeling anymore, like having a well-written movie-like story, memorable scenes and characters. With some of the most contentious things in this type of games is the gameplay. They are slower and more methodical than your high-octane hack and slash or FPS game where you just get bombarded by so much visuals it keeps your slow attention span brain from getting bored.
We estimate we can sell up to 80% of an individual's visual field before inducing seizures.
The magic of this is more precise and flexible. Instead of your usual you are A and shoot B, you're gonna be getting scenarios like you are A and do whatever you want in order to kill B. The only limit is your imagination and do whatever you want. Just you, the game, and the journey you make. Most of us had this experience before. You may change the scenario from time to time, but every one of us most likely had this moment. If you guys remember those, congratulations, that's what old school gaming feels like. It's that nostalgic feeling that leaves that lasting impression and core memory that we all sometimes like to tap into from time to time. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of games that trigger that same feeling for other people, but for me, there are only a number of games that give that certain vibe, like CD Projekt Red games, particularly The Witcher 3, Cyberpunk, or maybe the Dark Souls series, obviously the Final Fantasy series, or maybe XCOM. Well, the sad reality is that most gaming companies are going for that route, but Lorraine just kept on doing its thing and struck gold with this masterpiece. Mind you, all of the success didn't come overnight. They had years and years of experience with the Divinity Original Sin series, which are also, in my opinion, top tier in their own right, using that knowledge that they accumulated It gave them the blueprint to make this game possible. I really like this quote from the head of production at Larian Studios, where they were asked how the game is translated to the modern audience. Ever since Larian started making RPGs, the high interactivity and reactivity has always been the selling point. To me, this is what makes Baldur's Gate 3 so successful, or what makes Larian Studios different from other companies. It's always going that extra mile and not thinking, will anyone ever see this? This also brings me to my second point, which is the freedom of choice, or what I call freedom of what ifs. The freedom of what ifs is what brings this game to the next level, in my opinion. This sort of freedom surpasses even those legendary games that CDPR make. Just the amount of detail and story that you can miss in a single playthrough is just insane. All of your decisions matter from day one. Character creation, where you pick your race, class, stats, background, or even items that you find in the world. Or better yet, you can pick from origin characters for more of a tailored experience. As a wise individual once said, no two playthroughs of this game is quite the same. You can skip so much content if you wish, having minimal interactions as much as possible. For example, there's this gnome guy stuck in a windmill in Act 1. You can choose to help him or turn the windmill into a gnome launcher, not knowing that he is one of the best NPCs in the game. The simple things that you can do or interact will really send ripples throughout your playthrough. There are so much other interactions in between all of this, and Larian just gave it all in your hands.
I have the power!
The game is filled with memorable and unique moments where all of your decision will culminate in a well-deserved ending to the journey that you've crafted for yourself. Most likely around this, the what ifs will be settling in. You're gonna be asking, what if I did this instead of that? What if I talked to this NPC and helped them? Maybe if I didn't kill that, this would happen. The amount of flexibility and freedom will certainly hook you for your next playthrough and will keep you entertained for days or months on end. Now for the third and final point why this game is so successful, and I could argue that this is the most important one, which is the community. The Baldur's Gate 3 community is easily one of the best ones out there, even beating Final Fantasy XIV's 2-year streak in a row.
And the Game Award goes to Baldur's Gate 3. Congratulations, Larian.
As the best community award. Larian certainly created something special, starting from the early access where they take careful consideration of player feedback to the post-release patches to further optimize the game. Larian was just going crazy with the post-release update. They would drop patch after patch, hotfix after hotfix with just 1 to 2 weeks interval, compared to those larger gaming companies with so much developers under their belt like Bethesda, Ubisoft.
Baldur's Gate 3. Game Award goes to Baldur's Gate 3. To Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate 3.
Where it takes months just to get an hotfix or patch, this sort of pace is just insane. Yes, the game had a lot of bugs, but they just kept on working to bring out the best version of the game. They also bridged the gap across all audiences in different platforms in order to reach as much audience as possible. Other stuff like crossplay, photo mode, mod support, and new content for patch number 7 that'll be releasing this September. This is coming from my experience seeing how Baldur's Gate 3 has been evolving, not just by the game itself, but by the modding community. I've been covering Baldur's Gate 3 mods for quite a while now, and I've seen the passion and love people really pour into these projects, and it certainly shows.
What are the best Baldur's Gate 3 mod for the month? That is a question I've been asking myself, the universe, and my favorite website recently. Unfortunately for me, I haven't found it yet, so after careful thinking and fighting the urge to sleep all day, I finally decided to just let it go. Somebody's bound to make it anyway, so whatever, right? Then I had this idea. Why don't I just make it myself? I mean, like, nobody knows me anyway, so the more I can entertain people who do know me would be awesome.
Baldur's Gate 3 even overtook Witcher 3's spot as one of the top modded games in Nexus Mods, and what's insane about this is the modding scene for Baldur's Gate 3 is among the newest from this list. You know, they do deserve to sweep all of the major awards, Not just the fact that they made this masterpiece of a game, they understand what it takes to be the best. Want to know what it is? I leave you with this speech from Larian themselves.
A lot of people probably want to know what's the secret to your success. Last year I started thinking the secret to our success is the decisions that we make come from what does the player want? What do I think is best for the game? What is the most fun? What is the most crazy? People telling us we shouldn't do this, or we can't do it, or this is too challenging or too hard, like it was already said here today, that usually just gives us a kick up the arse to actually make it happen. The stuff that we make at Larian is we ask you to pay one price only for the game, and that's it. You can own it for the rest of your life. We don't have shareholders, but we also don't think about them. What we have tried in the last 20 years is to treat people like we would like to be treated ourselves as players, as gamers. So we don't make decisions where we think this could make us the most money. On the long run, building a community, building a player base, building games that are actually fun is going to make you the most money. That's it.